Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the fourth Couch to 5K lecture series. So before we get going, we just wanted to check in with all of you. How have you been doing in the past 30 days with your walking, with your jogging, your classes at the gym? We know it's been really hot. Can some of you just comment on how you've been doing?
Not well. Not been doing very well.
Tammy and Brianna, how have you guys been doing?
Great. We have been doing great. We've added swimming in prior to a spin class and riding our bikes. We're walking twice a day instead of once at work.
And you're doing it in the heat.
Yes. And great eating. I'm down 12 pounds. She's down 12 pounds.
Wow.
Good. We're good. We've been doing. But you know what? Support system is everything.
Huge.
Just emailing you guys and talking to each other and competing a little with each other. Not really friendly, but I mean, it kind of helps us.
So you guys feel like, just in speaking to everybody else here, kind of what has helped you keep motivated, stay on task, is having each other.
Yeah,
I think so,
yeah. And you guys as well.
Yes, and you guys as well, because we,
Sure.
email relatively often. We bug you guys a lot.
A lot.
And that is available if you guys just have general questions about nutrition or exercise. Feel free to shoot us an email, and we'll maybe tell you the right answer, and maybe not.
But a good answer.
Right. It'll sound good either way.
Right.
And also tonight's lecture will also help us all on our journey.
Yes.
So first, before we introduce our guest speaker tonight, Dr. Wenner, we just wanted to touch base with you all regarding this Sunday's upcoming mud run. It's this Sunday at 8 a.m. at Steen Sports Park. And it's $25 if you register in advance, or as many of you know, if you come to 3 of these lectures, we will pay for half of your entrance. It's definitely beginner friendly. And I know at one of our previous lectures, I think it was the one before last or maybe the last one, most of the crowd raised their hands and we all said yes, this would be something really fun that we would all do together. And so Catherine and I are just really hoping that you might want to join us this Sunday. And along those lines, we wanted to share 2 really nicely written articles that were just done in this past weekend's Herald and News along these lines. They highlighted the determination in doing a 5K. So the first one was written by our very own Nora. She starts out by talking about her lack of upper body strength and how challenging one of her workouts was. And she goes on to say, that's my general attitude toward the Run for Kids on this Sunday, July 20th too. My first 5K probably won't be pretty, but I'll get through it. And she goes on and ends her article by saying, while the obstacles will be an optional part of the 5K, I plan on doing them, and I hope other participants do too. It's a great challenge, and I'll be proud of myself for making that extra push. And then also, another reporter also commented on the 5K coming up this Sunday. This was Samantha, and she reiterated that this really is a beginner's course, so none of us should necessarily feel intimidated. She said, if you've never done an obstacle course race, this is the one to give a try. And then she ends on saying, so you don't have to be an Olympian to get out and try something new. The Run for Kids is the perfect opportunity to do it. Forget how you look. Forget what everyone else thinks. Forget what you think you can or can't do. Just do it to have fun. And so Catherine and I really think this is going to be fun this Sunday. We think it would be great fun if we all wore our t-shirts, did it as a team, and just got out there for the accomplishment in itself, to conquer our fears, to try new things, and to dedicate just a little bit of our free time to wellness. So we hope you will come join us. We hope you will wear your t-shirt. And Catherine and I will stay in the rear. We definitely don't want anybody to be left behind. We really want to support you. So Catherine and I will be in the back supporting every one of you.
And we should reiterate that you don't have to run this if you don't want to. If you are not wanting to run a 5K, but just to walk a 5K, that's totally fine, and we'll be with you on that.
Absolutely. And even online, they've started to change it from not just the 5K run, but the 5K run/walk. So just doing it, I think, is an accomplishment in itself. Can any of you say if you're ready to commit this Sunday with us? Yeah, awesome. Okay. Okay, cool, great. Okay, and we hope more of you will consider it. We would love to see you. It's at 8 a.m. this Sunday. Okay, so now let's go on and introduce Dr. Wenner. So as many of you guys know, Dr. Wenner, he is an orthopedic surgeon who has practiced here in Klamath Falls for over the past 25 years, which really is amazing in itself. And also, as probably most of you know, for our past two speakers, Danny Miles and Leonard Hill, we did this nice introduction for them. We talked about all of their qualifications, all of their accolades. However, when we asked Dr. Wenner for his, he was so humble that he didn't give us any. And so, though Dr. Wenner is involved with numerous very prestigious organizations and is involved with many community projects, he is stuck with two very short anecdotal stories of mine. So, and you know what, before I go on, I'll just put up the next picture. So this is his and his orthopedic team at Sky Lakes. So during residency, we shadow and we learn from a variety of community doctors. But my months with Dr. Wenner were undoubtedly some of my favorite. He truly does care about his patients. He spends time with them, answers their questions. But I think what is most remarkable is that despite him being a surgeon, that is not what he preaches about in almost every single office visit. Instead, he preaches on the importance of walking. Even if it's only starting with 10 minutes of walking a day, gradually walking more and more, he just reiterates the importance of incorporating that physical activity, that walking, into your daily routine. And I remember that from a couple years ago when I shadowed him. But it was just today that I was speaking with Catherine, and she talked about how happy her neighbor was after seeing Dr. Wenner. She had a full rotator cuff repair, and rather than quickly jumping to surgery, which I think maybe some other orthopedic surgeons might do, Dr. Wenner really reiterated gradual strengthening exercises, physical therapy first. And I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty cool when a surgeon talks more about walking and strengthening exercises than surgery in those office visits. So the other story that I want to share with you is about his commitment to this community. Like I said, he has been living here and practicing here for more than 25 years. And it's pretty easy for an orthopedic surgeon, especially one as talented as Dr. Wenner, to be able to go anywhere. Portland, San Francisco. So I find it very inspiring that he has chosen to stay here in Klamath Falls to do what he can to improve our town and its health. But it's not just our community that he's committed to helping. So as Catherine and I, we have been tasked by Sky Lakes to improve the health of our community. And so as we ask around to a variety of community members for support in this endeavor, for example, we just asked the city to give us $100,000 to build a park downtown. Or we asked OIT to help us build trails behind Sky Lakes and OIT. We don't always get a yes answer. In fact, most of the time, the answer is no. However, when we asked Dr. Wenner an even bigger question, I asked him once a couple of years ago, will you go to Africa with me? And he said yes. Okay, so I'm going to share as we finish up a couple pictures. So this was in Uganda, East Africa, and Dr. Wenner is also an avid birder. And so he pulled out his birding book because he was identifying all the birds in East Africa. And all the kids in the community were so fascinated. And so here you see Dr. Wenner teaching them about all the birds in their community. And just to end, so of course, he also saw patients when he was there in Uganda, and there is really no electricity, there is no running water, there are very, very few amenities. And you can see here, he's actually doing an amputation on a woman's toe. She was a diabetic. It was grossly infected. I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that she would have died had the surgery not been done. And to do a toe amputation in the US is a relatively minor, usual surgery. However, I remember Dr. Wenner talking about this in Uganda as it being like brain surgery for him because with no running water, with no cautery to stop the bleeding, really with no amenities, if something goes wrong, it could be a catastrophe when you're taking off a toe. And so he stayed up into the wee hours of the night before, just thinking about every potential scenario. If this goes wrong, if that goes wrong, what are we going to do? How are we going to respond? And it was a very successful surgery. Here's one last photo. It was a very successful surgery. The last that I heard, the woman is still doing very well and she's alive. So on that note, I couldn't be more thrilled to introduce Dr. Wenner.
That's the best introduction I've ever got. Okay, so it's a real honor to be able to speak to you. This is a very diverse group, and it's really exciting to see people come out to want to hear about this kind of thing. I was very honored to have the invitation to do this. So it's a very important thing. I think what Stephanie and Catherine are doing is going to be the foundation of a new community, and I want to do everything I can to help that. So the title of my talk is Motion is Lotion, and we're going to go over a few things. After the talk is over, I hope that you'll understand why you should be in motion and how to do it without hurting yourself and how to keep yourself going. That's the basic goal. And since I'm a doctor, we talk about disease. That's what we deal with every day. I'm going to start this talk with a list of some of our modern diseases. Everyone recognizes these. Hopefully you don't have every one of them. You probably have one. It's very common. These are all very common. Diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease, stroke, low back pain, which I see every day, arthritis, depression, anxiety. That's a wide variety of diseases. It involves your muscles, involves your joints, your heart, your blood vessels, your brain. There's something about that very diverse group of diseases, though, that unifies them. These are the common things that afflict our society. It's a very, it's kind of an epidemic of these diseases. So wouldn't it be great, with all those different diseases, if we could fight them, fight all those terrible diseases with one treatment? That would be a really nice thing to have. Well, there is such a miracle treatment. It's not a pill, and unfortunately for me, it's not a surgery. And no, it's not medical marijuana. I say I came across this on the internet. Medical marijuana cures everything. Sickle cell, sepsis, AIDS, tumors, asthma, glaucoma, it has all that. I didn't know it was so wonderful. But that is not what it is. So I think with this group, you all know what it is. What is the one thing that will treat all of those diseases I listed? Exercise. The one thing, scientifically proven, it's exercise. That's simple. And the literature, every day as a doctor, I pick up a new journal, and there's an article, a scientific article, about why exercise helps this or that, and things I would never even have expected. But we're becoming more and more understanding of this and how important exercise is. When I was a resident, I don't even want to think how long ago, 30 years ago, Angus McBride was one of my professors. And one of the things I remember him saying to me that stuck with me is he would say, motion is lotion. And what did he mean by that? Several things. One, medicine is evolving and we're learning the right way to do things, and it changes all the time. When I started training, if you tore your medial collateral ligament, the ligament on this side of your knee, what we would do is stick you in a cast for up to 3 months. And that would that'll work, that'll heal. And so we would stick you in a cast for 3 months. That was thought to be the thing to do. Well, then a researcher at University of Florida, where I went undergrad, started treating his football players a different way. He put them in a hinged brace and had the brace protected the ligament, and he had them move that knee every day. They healed twice as fast and ended up twice as good as the people that were in a cast for 3 months. The motion really helped the healing process. And so that was beginning to be this new thought. And Angus McBride was one of the first to kind of embrace that. And he just go and say, motion is lotion. You've got to get it moving. Keep your patients moving. If you had a total hip replacement, you were in bed for 2 weeks. Now you have a total hip replacement, you're in bed for 2 hours. And we get you up and you move. So motion, just activity, is critical to good health and the healing process. And we're learning that more and more. So I thought you might be interested in this, and there's a lot of research to answer the question is, why is exercise so good for us? Why does exercise work so well in enhancing our health? And part of that, or the major part of that, is our ancestors were not couch potatoes, right? 100,000 years of human evolution, and even before that, it goes all the way back to reptiles. Activity was a critical part of it. Our ancestors didn't get to eat. I found this, I thought, this is great. They didn't get to eat without physically working for their food. So calories didn't happen unless you were working, unless you were expending calories. Well, today we've sort of flipped that over, and we have tons of calories we have easy access to. At the same time, we don't have to do much physical activity. You can have a job, and you can get paid, and you can buy lots of calories, and you might not do any more than sit at a desk all day long. And it's not that you're bad, it's just that's the way the society is, and that's what we do. Well, that change, that underlying change of access to lots of calories without being active, it's actually the best way I can think of it, or say it without getting into all the scientific gobbledygook about it, is our bodies get confused. Our bodies are used to this activity. You're out doing things. And that causes release of all these peptides and hormones that allow you to deal with the calories that you're bringing in. If you're not active, that sends a totally different message to your body. You break down muscle, you start storing fat, because if you're not active, that's generally because it's a drought. It's the winter. There's nothing out there to eat. You just want to lay around the cave all day. And so there's a physiologic reason for all of that. So we're currently we flipped it over. We're living in a time of low activity and high calories. And that has led to many of those modern ailments that I described. Each of these, diabetes, hypertension being major ones, depression also, are the outcome of that mismatch between what we are evolved to do and what we actually do. And there's a lot of scientific research going on about this, and it's complicated, and I didn't want to get into all that, but just we're understanding it better and better. An example is exercise and diabetes. There's hundreds of studies showing that exercise helps diabetes. This graph basically just shows that you can decrease your risk of diabetes by 50% in those that have a high risk by exercise. And only and the more exercise, the better. 3,500 kilocalories per week is not that much, and you can reduce your risk of diabetes by half.
How many hours?
So you're getting back to the state that we evolved in.
Sorry, how many hours of exercise would that be?
I'm sorry?
How many hours of exercise would that be?
You know, I don't know. I knew someone was going to ask me that. I don't know. A fair amount. That's probably 30 minutes, 5 to 7 times a week of exercise. Elevated cholesterol. I came across a study, many of you may be taking the statin drugs that have been shown to lower cholesterol and increase survival and heart health. Walking as little as 10 minutes a day can lower your cholesterol as much as taking a statin. That was a recent study. Chronic back pain. In 25 years, a hot water bottle is not proven to be the best back treatment. It's exercise. That's what, if I can convince my patients to exercise, many of those with back pain get better. There's some things that are surgical that you pretty much have to operate on to get better, but the vast majority, that's not the case. Another interesting one is depression. Exercise, I found this, exercise is the most potent and underutilized antidepressant, and it's free. So depression is rampant across our society, and part of that is that lack of motion. And this was a surprise to me. In researching this talk, I didn't realize that there are some cancers that have been shown to be reduced with exercise. Colorectal cancer, postmenopausal breast cancer, endometrial cancer. There's a direct link between rate of those cancers and amount of exercise. Obesity, kind of related to exercise. There's many cancers that are higher in patients with obesity. So there's a lot of good reasons. You can conclude from that exercise is good. I mean, that's kind of the base. I try to give a medical look at it in disease, why exercise is good. Then the question is, what's the best? How much is enough? The question you asked. And how do I not hurt myself? A lot of people are inhibited. They're afraid they're going to get hurt. They think you got to do a lot of fancy stuff. Well, the first thing about exercise is don't be intimidated. You don't have to look like that. The reality is, we all look a lot more like that. Okay? This woman is going to get much more benefit from exercising than that guy is. So you don't have to be intimidated about starting an exercise program. Anyone can do it, and even a little bit is helpful. So to get enough exercise to improve your health and well-being doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be painful, doesn't have to be expensive. So what's the best? There's a lot of different things to do, fortunately, and a lot of the studies have not been able to say that this is better than that. What matters is that you do it, whether it's swimming, biking, aerobics, weight training. Weight training turns out to be a separate category. It's very important for people to get some weight training, especially older women. A little bit of weight training helps with osteoporosis or loss of bone. So you want to throw a little weight training in there, but all of them are beneficial for different reasons. But in my experience and what I'm learning and what I'm finding in the literature is walking pretty much is the champion exercise. It's the thing that if that's all you did, then that's good enough. It's great to do the other things, but walking is a very good place to start. And how much is necessary? This is a great statistic published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. As little as 10 minutes a day of brisk walking increases life expectancy by 1.8 years. 10 minutes a day, that's not very much, but it has a major impact on your attitude, on your health, and people around you. More is better, though, and 30 minutes of what's called moderate exercise 5 days a week seems to be this threshold. And a lot of the scientific studies looking at that are looking at peptides and hormones released from your midbrain. That's down in the reptilian part of our nervous system, where it doesn't matter what organism you are, activity leads to that release of those peptides. And those are the peptides that are called anabolic. They build up your muscle. They cause blood vessels to grow. They cause changes in your aerobic capacity. And that threshold of 30 minutes, 5 times a week, seems to be where those hormones get released. The more overweight a person is, it turns out, the more you need to get that benefit. And for some folks, it's actually up to 90 minutes a day. But for the vast majority, if you can get 30 minutes, and that's probably not quite that many kilocalories, but somewhere in that neighborhood is where you really start to get the benefit. So that if you can get that much, 30 minutes, 5 days a week, you're looking good. So what is moderate exercise? That's a lot of people wonder, well, what is that? One way to measure it is steps per minute. And I walk up OIT Hill quite a bit. So yesterday I said, I better figure out what this is, this 100 steps a minute. So I just counted it, 100 steps in a minute. And it's not that, you're moving, but it's not terrible, and you can do it. Another way that I've heard to measure that is the breath test, and that is you're walking with somebody, you're walking at a brisk pace, you're still able to have a conversation, but you're a little bit out of breath when you do that. That's a moderate exercise. You know, you're not just having a normal conversation, you're a little bit out of breath, but you can still do it. That's what you can consider as moderate exercise. One other quick thing, there's some recent studies about really intense exercise, real short bursts of intense exercise that have been shown to be beneficial in a different way. So you could always mix it up, and it's like 3 minutes. Like 3 minutes of really giving that intense burst has a whole nother benefit that's measurable. So it's always good to mix it up. But again, if you got nothing, if there's nothing else you're going to do, go for that walk, 30 minutes. So some of this stuff is common sense. You know that. So what if you try to get into exercise and it hurts? Well, you want to pace yourself. You want to start slow and build up. And so, God, I walk 10 minutes. I have this all the time. My patients say, oh, I can't exercise. If I walk 10 minutes, my feet hurt. Well, I say, well, walk 8 minutes. And then walk 8 minutes twice a day and start building up from there. Pretty soon your feet will hurt at 15 minutes and not 10 minutes. And you just keep going. A lot of people are leery of medication, and that's appropriate, but Tylenol in low doses can be very effective in helping you get through exercise pain, as well as, of all the anti-inflammatories out there, I like Aleve. It's got the safest cardiac profile. Anti-inflammatories can cause some issues with heart and blood pressure. They all can, and Aleve can as well, but it's got the safest one, so I like Aleve. It lasts longer too. But ice is a great one. If you don't use ice, you should consider it. Nothing beats frozen peas after a workout, and that is really a great way to ice your knee or your ankle. Is you get a bag of frozen peas and you lay it right on there, and it works really well. Walking sticks, a major benefit for walking. It can help with pain in your back and your hip and your feet and your knees. And it's also, patients will say, well, I can't walk because I don't have good balance. Well, use a cane. Don't call it a cane. It's a walking stick. And use it. And there's some people around here that just make beautiful walking sticks. Get one you're really proud of and get out and use it. And it'll help you with your balance. It can help you with your pain. And one thing is that 2 walking sticks, or what they call them, trekking poles. There's a scientific study looking at that, and it reduces knee stress by 10% to use 2 walking sticks. If you got some knee problems, try to get a couple of walking sticks, or you know what I'm talking about, they look like ski poles, and very effective in helping take stress off your back and your knees, and don't hesitate to use them. They're getting to be a little trendy too, you look cool. And if it hurts to walk, then you start with something else. We're fortunate to have 2 pools, the 2 that I know of, there may be more, that are available to the public that you can do water aerobics. Swimming is a great way to get started, and usually once you're started, you can move into more active and stressful type of exercises. And so exercise and losing weight helps arthritis, back pain, and muscle pain that you have from exercise. So the more you do, the better it's going to be, and the easier it's going to be to get going. So you don't get discouraged. You start off slow, walk your 10 minutes, but do it a couple of times a day, and then pretty soon you're doing 12 minutes, and you're doing 15 minutes, and you're doing 30 minutes to an hour. And you just keep building up. And if it really hurts, keeps you from exercising, you want to see your doctor and find out if there's some issue that might need to be addressed medically. Does anyone recognize that? Or know where that's from? That's right here in River City on East Main. I saw that one day. I thought, that is so great. This is a car lot on East Main from around the 50s and 60s. Sort of when the whole idea of like, well, why walk when you can ride? So after this talk, you should understand why you should walk and how to go about it. And so get out there and get some motion lotion. We do have some handouts that I came across. It's a campaign in Australia where the government there looked at all this data that I just talked to, says we got to get our people walking. And they started this huge campaign called Walk Yourself Happy. And they have websites and all these different things to try to get Australians to get out and walk. Just 30 minutes a day is what they said, and that's based on those studies that I alluded to. So that's basically it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all might have. So thank you. Yes, sir.
You mentioned intense exercise for a few minutes, and there were some benefits. What, you just really quickly?
I'm sorry?
You said intense exercise for a few minutes?
Yes.
Is also good, and you alluded to some benefits.
What was it that changed? Well, what they were looking at is some of those, the changes that you get at that 30-minute level, where you release all of these anabolic peptides and hormones. That would happen after just 2 or 3 minutes of really intense exercise. So you would get some of the same benefit of going 30 minutes, but get it in 2 minutes. And that whole it's a dichotomy of the way our metabolism works. If you're active and you're exercising, you're anabolic. You've all heard of anabolic steroids. Or what anabolic means is you're building things up. You're building up muscle mass. You're growing blood vessels. You're increasing the capacity of your lungs. And so that stimulus to get that is that 30 minutes 5 times a week. But these studies suggested that you can approach that with just doing 2 minutes of real, this is really intense. So that after 2 minutes, you're just completely exhausted. But you get the same benefit. That's what that was showing. Yes, sir.
Do you want to explain further it's having to do with anaerobic versus aerobic? And even when you go on extended, like long excursions, backpacking and so on, you can get stress from that. And then you actually get relief from doing intervals, shorter, because that builds your strength versus your stamina. And anaerobic versus aerobic thresholds.
That activity is that intense activity is more anaerobic, where you're not really your whole metabolism shifts from using oxygen to metabolizing differently. The whole thing about exercise, there's a whole lot of different theories about it, a whole lot of interval training, all of that stuff. It's all good, and some people respond better than others to one type or another. You just have to find out what works for you. But again, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't have to be complicated. 30 minutes 5 times a week of walking. That's like getting to be good enough. You want to go swimming, great. You want to do interval training, great. You want to throw in some intense exercise, that's great too. I would say that weight training is really important to add in there, especially for women. There's been a lot of studies showing the benefits of weight training, not heavy stuff, just doing curls, doing some deadlifts, doing things that stress your muscle and bone so that you stop losing. It's that stimulation of the weight that seems to keep the bone stronger. And so you want to throw in a little bit of that as well. Yes, sir?
Along with exercise, would you recommend any supplements of any kind?
So anything to do what?
Supplements like...
Supplements. That's a very controversial thing. And a lot of the supplements don't have good scientific evidence behind them. What's it called? Not glucosamine. Well, glucosamine is a supplement that people use for their joints. And I was going to put a slide in here about that. Cosamine, it's very popular. A lot of people use it. There's been multiple scientific studies that suggest it doesn't do anything. A lot of people use it. I have a lot of my patients tell me it helps their joints. And I had a dog with really bad arthritis. If we gave him glucosamine, he was good. If we didn't, he was bad. So that's not a great scientific study. So when patients say, I want to use glucosamine, I'll say, okay, great, try it for 6 weeks. Don't take it forever if it's not really helping. So some things like glucosamine help. There's another supplement, creatine, that people use to build muscle mass. And that does work. But there's some downside to that. I don't know if any of you have ever used or heard of creatine, but you take creatine and it helps contract your muscles. You actually build up muscle mass. And I've had 3 patients rupture their biceps tendon, and they were all on creatine. And the muscle actually gets strong enough that it overcomes the tendon. So I don't think it's a great idea. And then there's vitamins that no study has really shown vitamins. In fact, there's a lot of studies that show vitamins don't do anything. But I take vitamin C. Because vitamin C has a lot to do with protein metabolism. And theoretically, it should help you, if you're exercising, you're breaking down things. You're breaking down muscle and you're constantly repairing that. And if you want to avoid some of the chronic tendinitises that you, like patellar tendinitis or Achilles tendinitis, theoretically, taking vitamin C might help that. I have no study to say that that works. It makes sense to me, so I take a gram of vitamin C a day. So I won't say don't do it, but there's no great reason that you have to take vitamins and supplements. Yes?
If you're like in a lot of pain and you can't walk for 30 minutes that night, and you ride your bike, how much exercise is doing a bike?
If you're breathing hard and it would be that same thing. If you were riding bikes with somebody and you can still have a conversation, but you're out of breath, you just need that 30 minutes, 5 times a week. One of the things that the studies have shown, it doesn't really matter. They all work. There's one great study about back pain, and they looked at every exercise: bicycle, elliptical trainer, stairmaster, walk-in. They looked at everything, and they were going to find in this study with like 5,000 people what was the best. And it turned out they were all the same. What you had to do was do it. So they had a control group that didn't do any exercise. Well, they didn't get any better. And the ones that did, whether they rode a bike, did an elliptical trainer, swam, got that 30 minutes, they all got better. So not all, but most got better. Yes, sir.
Do you have any advice for people wanting to exercise when the air quality is less than desirable outside like it currently is?
Yeah, that's a tough one. One of the things is that there actually is a difference between outside and inside in most situations. Like most air conditioning, there's a filtering system. So you can safely exercise indoors when the weather's not good outside. And some people are more sensitive than others. Asthmatics, you might be able to run 5K without a problem, but if you're asthmatic, you can't do it. So the only real way to avoid it is to try to get on a treadmill or something inside. My preference is, for myself, is to be outside. I want to be outside and exercise. So I don't know that there's a great solution to that. The solution is to work with the system and try to keep people from burning wood stoves in the winter and improving air quality. Because I know masks and things like that are probably not that effective. Is that what?
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about fires locally.
Oh, the local fires.
Forest fires. I was wondering if you could potentially go to a higher elevation or something, try to get out
If
of
you
it.
can get above it, heck yeah. Yeah, go above it, because you can see that layer that gets down low and go to higher low, and that's a good idea. You got a better idea than I did. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
There's always that saying, no pain, no gain type thing and stuff. And I was wondering, like if your hips bother you or your foot bothers you or whatever, you're always, when do you know the balance of pushing through versus getting things checked out or something? And
Well, you just said it. It's a balance, and it's hard. And I see that a lot. Patients come to me and say, "My foot hurts when I walk," and it's a balance of pushing it too hard, and only the individual, only the person can kind of figure out what that is. There are many times that you can overcome that pain. You can get a little bit of, and many of you have experienced that. You start walking, it's like, oh, you know, my hip's a little tight, and you go 100 yards and it's fine. So you have to find what you're able to do. You don't want to, the thing to look for is where it's worse and worse and worse. Like you walk 100 yards and that hip pain is now worse. And you walk another 100 yards and it's now worse. Okay, that's enough. Figure out what that is. Or do something else. But if you have that aching pain that you can get through and then you're fine, then that's okay to do that. And hopefully the next time you go, it'll be shorter. And the next time you go, it'll be shorter. Again, the reason that happens is the exercise is causing that anabolic state. That state where your body knows you're exercising. And part of the reason you get into that state is because every time you use your muscles, you break them down. There's little tiny tears all through them, and your body's got to get in there and fix them. And many times, that's why I send people to physical therapy. Mostly it's to kind of make people get that exercise. Not that what the therapist does is necessarily magical, but they're there saying, now you go do this, now you do this. And that actual exercise, even if you're not even exercising the part that hurts you, is what makes you go down that process of healing. So it is reasonable to work through a certain amount of pain. But how much of that is something you have as an individual got to figure out. And you don't want to just keep making it worse and worse and worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I know from competitive running and so on that there have been great athletes. Alberto Salazar was one who set the world record in the marathon, New York Marathon, who ruined their career in a matter of a few short years because he ran so hard past that pain threshold and just kept pushing himself to the point where he was great for a while, but he actually ruined his legs from running too hard. And then other athletes were tested. I was not that competitive at a young age, but I've gotten better because I took the time to do a lot of yoga and background training and cross training are very important to keep your body balanced so that you don't overstress it in one event.
I totally agree 100%. That's a really good point. You know, I was just talking about just walking, but if you can mix it up, as he described, that's always good. And you don't want to push it. You don't, to the point that you're damaging yourself. Yeah.
I have a silly question. I do have a little bit of high cholesterol, and I want to call my doctor and get some lab work drawn now that I've lost 12 pounds. How long would you wait? Because I want it to be successful and my cholesterol has gone down. How long do you think it takes?
You mean between
to do some more lab work and to get a better result on my cholesterol? What do you think?
Let me tell you, it's very dependent on the individual. There are some people immediately, they get a little bit of exercise, and that was in that study I talked about that showed that 10 minutes of exercise lowers cholesterol. That was an average, right? And you looked at the data sets, and there were some that it didn't change it at all. And there's others that did a little bit of exercise that dropped like a rock. So everyone's going to be different. So I can't answer that.
Okay.
Just keep doing more and more.
Right.
That's the answer. Well, listen, this was great for me. Thank you very much. It was really fun.